أنا هقول حاجتين
I'm gonna say a couple of things,
تعليقا مش على
commenting not
المسار.
just on the path, but on the idea. And I'm going to tell you this out of experience, and I have mentioned it before. One way or another, there's a difference between the idea and the implementation. So that we are all clear about this, Dr. Zweil, God rest his soul, met me in 2014 and told me about the Zweil University project. And I told him, what am I required to do? He said nothing. I just want the engineering body to carry out the implementation. I said, Dr. Zweil, do you guarantee that we receive the donations for this university? He said, of course, yes. And then the amount he had was 500 million pounds, and the program, the university program, was huge. You know about this, Your Excellency. I told him, Dr. Zweil, you're going to rely on donations. Whoever those people, the donors, should meet their promises. So you should understand the idea and the implementation and persist on the success of the idea. And then he passed. And that was it. And what the engineering body do, they carried on with the project. A businessman, a very good one, in 2015 told me he wants to establish a charity foundation, and I designed it in the USA. And I need your monitorship and approval, and the engineering body carries out the implementation. I said, all right, but this idea is not going to be successful. And he wondered about the reason, and I said, and I'm talking to the Egyptians here, I have a problem with funding. And I see this very clearly, the funding problems, the weaknesses and the strengths. What you're proposing is not going to be successful, and this is a 20 billion pound hospital. Can you obtain this amount of money? Even if you obtain this funding, the bed count is over 1,000. Do you know the patient here? What would be the cost of a patient getting treatment here in this hospital? You need at least 2 or 3 or 4 billion pounds to operate the hospital. Is this reasonable for you? So trust me, this is not going to be successful. And he said, I'm going to proceed with the project, and I know donors from inside and from abroad who are going to donate to this project. I have over $1 billion now, and this was a large number actually. I said, okay, and if you, someone would wonder if you already knew that was not going to be successful, why did you go on with it? But I took the idea and I made it successful. Yeah, Dr. Khalid brought me the Nasser Institute project. It needed some development. It required only some development. But I said, no, it should be an international, worldwide medical city, and whatever the cost is. And how is the implementation is going to take place, this is my problem, not the government's problem. And this is a different path. Let me complete the story of the hospital of this charitable businessman who put his funding into this project, and then he got busy with his life. The cost so far is 6 billion pounds, and it's going to reach 10 billion pounds. This is away from the preparations of the hospital. And even we cut short the bed count from 1,000 to 340. So that's why I'm telling you, the idea might be good, but the implementation is hard. And I am learning from your ideas. I take another and I extract different ideas that can be actually doable and successful to have the components of success. Unless, though, it will remain only an idea that will give you grief for not being implemented. This hospital required a nuclear adapter for treatment. It required $46 million, including the adapter. We had one in the medical center of the army that we can actually use already. We didn't need a new one. This hospital is going to start operating soon. And I told the minister when the bed count reached 340 that we are ready for an international hospital. An investor can come take it and we can buy the service. The investor can run it and we are going to provide the service for people for free. The service is going to be entirely for free with international management. So this is private sector in a way. We buy the service as a government, as a state, for the people. And I like to mention this because he was saying that the private sector can implement hospitals. I have been here for years and I am seeing different things every day. If you want a successful path, then the state should take the most of it and the rest is for the private sector. I can implement and establish the hospital or the project, and then you can take it to run it and manage it. But for the private sector to start the project from scratch, they have to take the land, the establishment, a loan from the bank, and many other requirements, and it will take up to 5 to 7 years. But with the state, it can only take 2 years, which is the framework of implementation. And it is that framework. The project is finished, fully established, and then the private sector can take over the management and the running, and we are going to buy the service from the private sector. This is the idea I'm talking about. Considering the treatment issue in Egypt, I could have 700 hospitals in Egypt. But the salaries of the medical staff are not encouraging or incentivizing. Is it upsetting for you if I said Khalid without doctor? No, of course not. Of course not, sir. The maximum work in my estimation due to the circumstances that we cannot fix, and I'm admitting this as a government, we cannot provide a suitable amount. I am saying suitable or appropriate, not even more than they deserve for everyone working in all state sectors, including education and health. And I am telling you this because when you find a level that you do not like, don't you say what are the government efforts in this sector. It doesn't mean that we accept going easy, or it means to make a real change, you have to work alongside with us. Because when people get what they want, I can then provide you with whatever you require later. A true change cannot be made except with work, struggle, and patience, and maybe deprivation even. And maybe deprivation. These hospitals and others, including the medical city, we are offering it to the private sector in exchange of buying the service as a state, and they can manage it for entities inside Egypt and abroad. Thank you for your presentation. And I want to tell you that Dr. Khalid is one of the really hard-working people. That's true. He always proposed for me as a Ministry of Education. He made a lot of proposals and has the ability to market his ideas. He could get me into any project and we start implementing right away. So this was in the higher education ministry, and with the ideas he proposed, now we have 50% of the required capacity of universities. We reached 100% through discussions, and I said yes for everything, and he always thought that he convinced me. But I always saw everything very clearly. If I found this colleague proposing ideas, then he's going to receive my utmost support, because eventually it is for the interest of the people. Dr. Naveen, please. Thank you so much, Mr. President, and we're always honored by your comments, and we're still telling the story of a nation, but now in the social solidarity sector. The state extended its effort to include the care of the most vulnerable groups, and providing them with civil protection, whether financially or tangibly. To get to know more about this, about social solidarity up close, we can follow this presentation. The voice of Egyptians is heard, and I dream the same dreams as they do. I have to arrange the cards of this state to be a really higher state. The Egyptian people was suffering of the absence of social solidarity and justice after the poverty rate reached 26%. And the poverty in the rural area was 51% in 2013, and that's why the priority of the Egyptian state was to improve the quality of life of Egyptians. On the top of the efforts of the state was the Decent Life Initiative, the biggest national project in the history of the Egyptian state, the biggest humanitarian initiative in modern history. The goal of which is to improve the living circumstances of the Egyptian citizen with total cost over £1 trillion. The project targets for over 4,000 villages in 22 governorates. The initiative was launched in January 2019. With the end of phase 1 of the initiative, the total services amounted to 8,400 drinking water connections and 11,000 rooftops. And the phase 1 was totally implemented with £13.5 billion. And as a result of the initiative interventions, the poverty rate reduced by 14% in some villages, and the public poverty rate was down by 8% than 2020 compared to 2018. The initiative included infrastructure as well as the cultural and health and sports aspects, as well as economic empowerment, so that the village that is fully implemented will never see poverty again. Since 2014, the Egyptian state took care of providing civil protection for most vulnerable families, including developing children and taking care of the elderly and people with disabilities, in addition to financial support for families. The most prominent achievements was the Takaful Karama program, which is the biggest financial support program in Egypt and the Arab region. 5 million people are benefiting from this program, about 20 million citizens. After 2014 was only over 1 million families, so this is a 15% increase. After the directives of the President, the pensions increased in 2020-30 twice, in addition to increasing pensions 10 times since 2014, and as a result, the total pensions disbursed in 2020 reaching 294 million pounds. The civil protection also included persons with disabilities and providing support to 1,200,000 people. The state also protected families and youth, and the result was the reduction of drug using from 8% to 7%, and the You Are Stronger Than Drugs initiative was launched. And since 2020, the situation has changed, and the social umbrellas requirements increased after the corona pandemic and the Russian-Ukrainian war, and we were up to the challenge. Increased the financial support in the state budget from 330 and 40 million pounds, reaching 500 million pounds in 2023, and we are still working every day, proving that we are able to overcome any challenge. And this is the origin of our story, a story of a nation. So, Dr. Niveen, the social solidarity sector had a lot of activities to achieve social justice, as we have witnessed in this presentation. So, what was the impact of the social solidarity on the most vulnerable groups during the 9 years, those past 9 years, and what are the measures taken to ensure sustainability? In the name of Allah, most merciful, most gracious, Mr. President Abdel Fattah Sisi, President of the Republic, ladies and gentlemen. I greet you, sir, and the armed forces and the families of the martyrs and the injured for the celebration of the 6th of October. And I salute all the bloods that were shed protecting this beloved homeland. The story of the Social Solidarity Ministry, or the story of the nation, is the story of a people with all of its segments. Started with the 2014 Constitution, which was established by all society segments, and it was a social contract between the state and the society based on transparency and honesty, and also on participation and accountability. It is a collective accountability and responsibility, a people responsibility and a political responsibility, because we are all, at the end of the day, are a people. We change positions, but we are a people eventually. And who constructs who? The people constructs a homeland, or a homeland constructs the people? Or is it a continuous process of giving so that we can rise up with our precious homeland as Egyptians? Since the beginning of 2014, the main requirement of the people was social justice. That's why the government prioritized it and started an economic reform program setting policies and legislations regarding social protection for all the segments and fabrics of the people, especially who are most vulnerable or have the right at most for protection. So in 2014, the social policies implemented for the entire groups of the people was allocated budgets, and the Social Solidarity Ministry increased its budget in an unprecedented manner. And the president was the one to take these decisions regarding social solidarity. And don't you hurt the simple low-income citizen. So part of this protection is investing in the people, and what we invest in the homeland by investing in the next generations, in order for them to be able to preserve what we have reached and continue the progress. The social justice is a very important issue that includes the Prime Minister Council, and it includes all ministries and entities, including health, supply, education, higher education. Several ministers are taking place on this initiative. Protecting women group, supporting women. 18% of families have a house head as a woman. People with disabilities, 8%. People with pensions, 14%. 4 million people. 30 million in Takaful Karama project. And we're going to go into details about this. The early childhood, 12 million child. So these SMEs, that's why we had Mastura, unregulated workers, the craftsmen's issues. These are the people, the owners of the story. Some of them are listening and some of them are telling the story. If we move forward to the factors the social solidarity works on, it's not just social justice, it is one of the measures taken to provide the minimum income for the citizen, in addition to basic services, to have a decent life and reach the minimum. But social justice doesn't mean stop working. Not everyone obtaining support is able to cross this crossword, because some groups are not able to work. So if we have social justice continuing for some groups, but we are working to reduce these groups, and whoever is able to work can get to work to the job market, and without rehabilitations they are not qualified enough to gain and have jobs. They need rehabilitation, and we need mediators to help them, and some of them are overqualified to the project development body, and some of them can establish a small project. But some groups are always still need care, such as orphans, elderly, and abused women. Are we working alone? Fortunately, that we have coordination with the different ministries, because we eventually are working to serve the citizen. And my colleague, the Minister of Health, were working since the first 1,000 years till the pension age. So we're working with the citizen along their lives in different age groups. We're not only working in rural areas. Most of our services are in the rural areas, but we're working in urban areas, desert areas, and in the border areas as well. Our partners, the NGOs, have white hands that we're going to mention right now, because they are a fundamental partner, and we thank the President for his appreciation for the NGOs, not just for his accreditation, but for acknowledging the NGOs as a fundamental partner. And then we have the awareness issue. If we work on these 4 factors and ignore the awareness issue, and we still have rumors and delayed awareness, then we are going to move very slowly, burdened, and something is going to keep pulling us back. And that's why the awareness take a lot of attention from the President. If all this is hardware, then the software is the awareness. And I do not mean education and perception, I mean all the soft powers of Egypt. If we start with social protection, we are talking today, if the President said that we covered 5 million families, I will mention the amount of citizens. We are talking about over 6 million citizens. Today we are serving 22 million citizens, in addition to the increases you authorized recently. The recent increase, the 15% increase, will get us higher to serve 36 billion citizens. The government has doubled the financial support from 3.7 to 7 billion. And we reached 36 billion Egyptian pounds, so this is 900%. So the people is the top priority of the state. Takaful Karama is not a burden to the state, and that's what we're going to see. Moving is the local capital. The procurement process is getting a push. So the poverty is getting reduced, and on the family level, the poverty rate is really a very simple family receive support from the Takaful Karama project. And I was fortunate enough to work on this program since the beginning with the previous minister. but it wasn't targeting enough as there was no digitalization, and this leads to the lack of governance. So it is a bigger opportunity for the lack of support for the most vulnerable groups, a bigger opportunity for the absence of social justice, and we have even witnessed increased population. That's why we're taking faster steps in the social solidarity ministry in particular to build the infrastructure as if we fixing an airplane while it is flying in the air. I want to increase on this 36 billion pounds. I need to add 57 billion pounds, part of the civil protection, and we should make this accounting with a complete bill. That's another part of the social solidarity, and we are saluting the CSR pushed by banks in the previous period, and it was not a small effort. There is a lot of unseen funding that we witness, and this is a dream of the social solidarity ministry to regulate the distribution of the funding, prevail governance, and ensure that every right is duly met. If we look at children under 18 years old beneficiaries, we're talking about more than 6 million child under the umbrella of this program. It is a young program giving education with 100% percentage. So that children are not a private property of families. Every child has the right to receive education, health care, and if we add youth from 18 to 24, we're talking about 51% of the total beneficiaries are of children and youth. تكافل الكرامة is also covering most vulnerable groups who need support and who support us and give us push, because we're talking about over a million people with disabilities receiving support from the program, which reach $8 million pounds, apart from rehabilitation services provided to the persons with disabilities. As for the elderly, we are launching the first law for elderlies to honor them and also to invest in them. We are against that the elderly are unable to give. They are wealth that should be invested. We reached 3.2 billions. We had over 20,000 women supporting families. This program is not only supporting family, it's supporting for women, because 75% who hold the تكافل الكرامة cards are women, and we carried out a study about the impact of this program to empower women and empower them to make decisions. The rural women are very smart, and a lot of families invest these monies and financial support very wisely. So 54% are in rural areas, because as we have witnessed, 51% of poverty line in Egypt are in the rural areas. That's why we have a positive bias to the rural areas. It's not only financial support, but it is a multidimensional poverty that we're working on. We pay attention to healthcare and education, so that children under 6 years have regular visits to health units, and there is networking between the social solidarity ministries and other ministries to make sure that these children have their share of education and health care. And when we analyzed the data, um, we had 11 million families, 40 million citizens, and which is a wealth, because the information wealth telling us about these families, about the insurances, the jobs, the illnesses, this is information wealth. And we measure the illiteracy rates, we found that 62%. And they are really poor, not only in financial resources but also in education and healthcare. That's why we are working on the entire quality of life. We held partnerships with the NGOs, and we reached about 1 million ladies from the age of 15 to 35 years old, because they are supporting small families that are about to see life, and the poverty rates, the illiteracy rates declined to 47%. And illiteracy means not gaining a job and not receiving the proper health care. So with developing the Egyptian family program, we reached 140 clinics in the civil society, and we have over 10,000 associations providing social services and medical services with intensive care units and incubators, providing 30% of the healthcare services. And that's why the Ministry of Health is leading the situation, telling us about the gaps in the reproductive health. So we opened the clinics in the place indicated by the Ministry of Health. We reached 9 million visits, 4 million visits went to reproductive health entities, and 1 million used, and 5 million used family planning methods. And we are going on moving forward with the work to reach 400 associations. The families of the martyrs and injured in the line of duty are a main focus of ours, and we're working on several martyrs who passed due to fighting terrorism. We have over 2,000 injured and 500 martyrs. Mr. President doubled the compensations of the families, not only once, but there are extraordinary pensions for life that increase gradually with pension increases, in addition to education privileges, social housing privileges, and there are cards that make these privileges available. We are coordinating with the National Fund, and actually maybe to be able to prevail governance on this system, we would like to thank the administrative monitorship body authority. We verify the data through the authority, as some data cannot be authorized, and we can get it through the services provided by the state. The Ministry of ICT is helping the social solidarity system, connecting us all. We have a network linkage with 9 government entities, so that we do not let the families able to work to continue receiving support, and other families are not able to work and they do not get support. And that's why we recover any undeserving families, any money received by undeserving families. We started using the tablet and digitalization in the ministry, and this achieved a leap in the social units to be able to update the database. We worked in the rural areas, and the president directed to fully furnish the housing units, and the bigger mission is to financial inclusion. We have 11 million MISA cards, some of them for Takaful Karama, 6 million for pensions and the female entrepreneurs. And also children now have MISA cards. Our ambition in this period is to digitalize all of our services. What is very good is that we are able to monitor the path of the fundings received by the family, and therefore we are able to monitor the behavior of expenses. But 2.4 million of the funding are withdrawn from ATMs or from the post office ATMs, and today we are talking about simple families are gradually not vulnerable anymore. We started giving support and their capacity increased. So these families are not unable to work, they need just more efforts from us to qualify them for job market. We move forward to the development issue, which is the empowering cross path. To be able to rehabilitate these families, we proposed the SMEs, and we had in 2017 160,000 SMEs. Now we have over 400,000. These are simple, small projects, and that's why we take them afterwards to a bigger productive units. But here the families start experiencing work for themselves and work for others, so that the succeeding families can gain more money and more funding for bigger projects. We have the unregulated workers issue, and that's why the president directed to establish a fund and an association. This is a recent project from 2021 from Amen, and the funding in 910 million pounds. The fisheries, regarding the fisheries, we are coordinating with the agriculture ministry to help the fishermen in the 4 months when the fishing stops in Egypt, to open lakes for fishing. The Craftsmen of Egypt project have a capital of 18 million pounds, and we are hopeful that this is the mediating sector between the simple citizen and the state. These are not large businessmen, but they are mediators between the society and cooperatives. And the exhibitions of Diarna achieving 600 million pounds a year, and women are a main factor in these exhibitions. benefiting and selling their products there. And we established an encyclopedia with الأهرام العربي publication home to document the crafts throughout history so that they do not vanish without any development, but in coordination with the Ministry of Industry we are going to develop this sector under supervision of the Prime Minister. The main initiative, Egypt without people in debt. These people are vulnerable to being in debt because they are not evenly empowered and they are not able to gain funding or gain a large amount of money. We need to support people in debt without legitimizing being in debt, but releasing over 7,000 women in debt, and we're focusing more on women, and there is a white list to explore the reason of the debt. If it's involuntary, we provide support very cautiously with the Ministry of Interior, and there is coordination even in the case of debt. We do not only need to help them pay their debt, but we need to find solutions, and that's why we need to talk about the Nasser Social Bank. We talked about the Indonesian experiment, the Grameen Bank. We found that the Nasser Bank have a lot of services, even exceeding the services provided by the Grameen Bank. They are providing funds to many hospitals, the Merdash, Abu Rish, the Tumors Institute, and they are handling the elderly, the vocational students issues, and serving elderlies with 200 million pounds last year. Recently, we achieved a leap. The funding increased from 26 billion to 27 billion. The goodwill loans are not there on the level of Arab or international states. It is only in Egypt, which is loaning money and returning it without any interest. These increased from 139 million to 2 billion, which is a safe place for secure and safe lending with facilitated loans. There is also the Family Security Fund. We paid the debt moderately, and the input now matches the output. But the dream of the president was much bigger, and that's why we are working along with the Ministry of Justice, developing the fund to develop families, which is a great fund, not only serving divorced women in link with Takaful Karama fund to ensure a secure and safe income. The bank achieved the biggest rate of revenues this year, and we reached 3 billion pounds. We can preserve all this without any insurance. So in the Social Solidarity Ministry, we are serving persons with disabilities and the elderly. So the fund is getting larger, and we can solve the problems from the root, especially for the unregulated workers. Of course, we extend our gratitude to the Ministry of Finances, but after the increases of today, it will reach 830 billion pounds. The participation of insurance is now 13.8%. And the maximum increased from £1,000 reaching £10,000 approximately. In coordination with the higher education ministry, now we do not want our youth separated from the issues of society. We need them to watch closely the issues of their homeland, to encourage them volunteer to find solutions, and some of them are even benefiting from the services of the ministry. We are supporting the unable students to pay their tuitions, and we provide compensating aesthetics for the persons with disabilities. We have the volunteering home for drug abuse treatment. So it is a social process within the university, because the universities are operating within society. We are developing our work within societies. We have the Productive Student Initiative, providing funding to students to conduct projects and to fight poverty from its roots. All the states do not wait for the students to graduate and then go to the job market. No, they start working since they are students. And as you can see, the persons with disabilities, the elderly, the abused women, all benefited. The abused women have many centers to resort to, and we the first center for the human trafficking issue. The social care, we start from early childhood, as we have said, since the first 1,000 days, and we had 13,000 nursery in 2017. We reached over 26,000 nurseries now, and that's not enough. We are way behind. We are expanding as much as we can. I'm not gonna expand on decent life, but I just want to say that nurseries are a very important part in bringing up children, not educating them, and that's why we have a new curricula based on the development of the child and its relationship with society, respecting persons with disabilities and the elderly. So this is a new curriculum. And we trained 6,000 coordinators and trainers. The nursery does not necessarily have to be luxurious, but able to provide basic services. We have 320,000 persons with disabilities benefiting from rehabilitation centers, from different entities, motor centers, speech rehabilitation centers, and we have 105,000 cards issued for them. Some people are protesting on the delay of issuing these cards, but we are being very accurate with issuing these cards, because the data were really inaccurate, and some people took advantage of the persons with disabilities, advantages and privileges for those who are undeserving. Some are also complaining that a woman with a disability that is married are gaining two pensions, are receiving two pensions, and there is a committee formulated in this regard to study this, and a woman with disability right will be preserved in coordination with insurance and the Ministry of Finance. The other issue is cars. Doctor, please. What is the potential amount for this, really? Women with disability, as the estimate is 300,000. No, what is the initial amount, the estimate amount financially, if you have? This is what are we collecting right now, sir, but we have 87,000. But when we measured and estimated